No one saw this coming. 1 minute, everything seemed calm behind the scenes, and the next, the phones were blowing up, the family group chats went silent, and whispers started flying that something had gone terribly wrong. Fans are shocked as a private family conflict suddenly explodes into full-blown drama, and at the center of it all is a replacement no one was prepared for. According to insiders in this fabricated scenario, Charlie Kirk's parents are furious. Absolutely livid. What began as quiet concern has now turned into open outrage, with accusations flying and emotions running dangerously high. They claim that Erika didn't just move on, she crossed an unthinkable line by replacing Charlie altogether. And when word leaked that a new boyfriend had entered the picture, the situation went nuclear. Sources say the parents felt blindsided, betrayed, and humiliated, convinced that Erika's actions were a calculated move rather than a coincidence. Late-night phone calls turned into shouting matches. Old family wounds were ripped open. And as rumors spread online, fans began picking sides, dissecting every move, every silence, every smile. But here's where things get even more intense. The so-called new boyfriend isn't just some random outsider. His arrival triggers a chain reaction that leaves the family divided, loyalties questioned, and Charlie himself caught between pride, heartbreak, and rage. What really happened behind closed doors? Was this a clean break, or a deliberate replacement? And why did Charlie's parents believe this was personal? Stay with us, because once this story unfolds, nothing, and no one, comes out untouched. The tension didn't explode all at once. It crept in slowly, quietly, the kind of pressure that builds behind closed doors while everyone pretends everything is fine. Insiders say it began with a phone call that Charlie never expected to receive. His mother's voice was tight, controlled, but beneath it was something darker, something trembling. She asked him a simple question that didn't feel simple at all. Did you know she brought him to the house? Charlie froze. He hadn't, and in that moment, something shifted. According to this fabricated narrative, Erika had made a choice that stunned everyone around her. While the public believed things were still undefined, still respectful, she was already moving forward in a way that felt final. Friends say she didn't announce it. She didn't warn anyone. She simply showed up one evening with someone new by her side, smiling, calm, almost relieved. To her, it was closure. To Charlie's parents, it was a declaration of war. The moment Charlie's father found out, emotions ran high. He reportedly slammed his hand on the kitchen table so hard the glasses rattled. Years of pride, protection, and unspoken expectations boiled over. He believed Erika had crossed a boundary that could never be uncrossed. In his mind, this wasn't just about dating again. This was about replacement, erasing, rewriting history, and that idea hit harder than any argument ever could. Charlie tried to stay quiet at first. Friends say he told himself it wasn't his place anymore, that people move on, that life doesn't pause just because hearts are still healing. But every time his parents called, the anger in their voices chipped away at that resolve. His mother cried, his father accused, and slowly, Charlie was pulled back into a storm he thought he had escaped. Then came the whispers. Fans are shocked as screenshots, sightings, and half-confirmed stories begin circulating online. People started asking the same question over and over again. Who is the new guy? Why now? And why does it feel so deliberate? Erika's silence only made the speculation louder. Every unanswered question turned into an accusation. Every smile became evidence. Behind the scenes, the first confrontation happened late at night. Sources claim Charlie called Erika, his voice low but shaking, trying to keep control. He asked her if the rumors were true. She didn't deny it. Instead, she told him she deserved happiness, that she had waited long enough, that she refused to live in limbo anymore. To her, the conversation was honest. To him, it felt like the ground disappearing beneath his feet. When Charlie's parents found out about the call, things escalated fast. They believed Erika was being cold, calculated, and dismissive of everything the family had shared. They felt disrespected, not just as parents, but as people who had once welcomed her as their own. Insiders say his mother drafted a message she never sent, filled with hurt, disbelief, and barely restrained fury. The breaking point came when details about the new boyfriend finally surfaced. Not publicly, but within the family circle. According to this fictional storyline, he wasn't a stranger. He was someone Erika had known for a while. Someone who had been, just a friend, when questions were asked in the past. That revelation changed everything. Accusations of emotional betrayal began flying. Charlie's father insisted this proved the relationship didn't start when Erika claimed it did. Charlie didn't know what to believe anymore. Part of him wanted to defend her, to trust the version of events she shared. Another part of him couldn't ignore the timing, the secrecy, the speed with which she seemed to move on. He felt caught between loyalty and logic, between the woman he once loved and the family that raised him. Friends tried to intervene, urging everyone to slow down, to stop turning private pain into public spectacle. But the damage was already spreading. Family dinners were cancelled, group chats went silent, and every quiet moment felt heavier than the last. The family was left divided, each side convinced they were protecting something sacred. As the first images of Erika and the new boyfriend allegedly began circulating among fans, the narrative took on a life of its own. Some defended her fiercely, saying she owed no one an explanation. Others echoed the parents' outrage, claiming the move was insensitive and cruel. Charlie watched it all unfold from a distance, feeling exposed, misrepresented, and strangely invisible in a story centered on his own life. By the end of this chapter, nothing had been resolved. Only lines had been drawn. Trust had fractured, and the quiet understanding that whatever came next would be louder, messier, and far more painful than anyone was prepared for. The silence after that was the most dangerous part. Days passed with no calls, no texts, no attempts to smooth things over. According to insiders, Charlie's parents took that silence as confirmation of everything they feared. In their minds, Erika wasn't just moving on, she was deliberately shutting them out, severing ties as if the past meant nothing. Emotions ran high inside the house, where every quiet moment turned into another round of accusations and replayed memories. Charlie's mother reportedly began revisiting old moments, searching for signs she might have missed. She wondered out loud if Erika had emotionally checked out long before anyone noticed. Each question fed into the next, creating a narrative that grew more painful with every retelling. Charlie's father, meanwhile, took a harder stance. He stopped asking questions and started making statements. To him, this was proof of disrespect, and he refused to stay silent any longer. Behind the scenes, a family friend attempted to act as a bridge. They reached out to Erika, hoping to de-escalate the situation, suggesting a calm conversation, maybe even a meeting to clear the air. Erika agreed, but only under one condition. She made it clear she would not apologize for moving forward with her life. That message alone reignited the fire. When the parents heard about it, they felt dismissed all over again. The meeting never happened. Instead, the tension spilled outward. Fans are shocked as subtle changes begin appearing online. Old photos quietly disappear. Comments are limited. Vague captions hint at new beginnings and choosing peace. To some, it looked empowering. To others, it felt like a provocation. Charlie's parents noticed every detail, reading meaning into every word, convinced these posts were aimed directly at them. Charlie tried to intervene once more. Sources say he sent Erika a long message late one night, carefully choosing his words, trying to explain the pressure he was under. He told her his parents felt replaced, humiliated, pushed aside. Her response was calm but firm. She said she couldn't keep living her life to satisfy other people's expectations. She reminded him that pain doesn't grant ownership. That message cut deeper than anger ever could. The next twist came unexpectedly. According to this fictional account, the new boyfriend finally spoke up, at least privately. He wasn't aggressive or confrontational. Instead, he expressed frustration at being dragged into a situation he never asked for. He claimed he respected Charlie, that nothing physical happened until things were truly over. But his involvement alone was enough to inflame the parents' anger. They believed his words were rehearsed, carefully constructed to protect Erika's image. Charlie's father allegedly confronted his son after hearing this. The conversation was intense, filled with raised voices and long pauses. He demanded to know why Charlie wasn't angrier, why he seemed willing to accept explanations so easily. Charlie, exhausted, pushed back for the first time. He told his father that this wasn't just about pride, it was about letting go. That admission only deepened the divide. Inside the family, sides began forming. An aunt urged compassion. A cousin warned against turning heartbreak into bitterness. But the parents felt alone in their outrage, convinced everyone else was minimizing their pain. The family was left divided, not just over Erika, but over what loyalty really meant. As rumors continued to swirl, fans dissected every alleged sighting of Erika and her new partner. Some claimed they looked happy, unbothered by the chaos. Others insisted the smiles looked forced, defensive. Speculation grew that Erika had been planning this transition for months, even as the relationship with Charlie publicly unraveled. None of it was confirmed, but the damage didn't wait for proof. Charlie found himself increasingly isolated. Friends noticed he withdrew, declining invitations, spending more time alone. The constant tug of war between defending Erika and protecting his parents left him drained. He questioned whether silence was cowardice or self-preservation. Every choice felt wrong, every path led to someone's disappointment. The emotional peak of this part of the story came with an unexpected voicemail. According to sources, Erika left Charlie a message after hearing about his parents' anger escalating again. Her voice was steady but emotional. She said she was tired of being painted as a villain, tired of carrying blame for everyone else's pain. She told him she wished things had ended differently, but she refused to be frozen in the past. Charlie listened to the message more than once. He didn't respond, and as that silence settled in, it became clear that this was no longer just a breakup story. It was a collision of pride, grief, and change, with no easy resolution in sight. The next chapter would only dig deeper, pulling more people into a conflict that was already spiraling beyond control. The fallout didn't stay contained for long. Once emotions spill over a certain edge, they start pulling everything with them, and that's exactly what happened next. According to this fictional storyline, Charlie's parents reached a point where private frustration no longer felt enough. They believed their pain was being ignored, minimized, brushed aside as if it were an inconvenience. And when people feel unheard, they often look for ways to make noise. It began with a conversation between Charlie's mother and a longtime family friend, someone who had watched the relationship grow from the beginning. Voices were lowered at first, then cracked, then rose. Tears turned into accusations. She spoke about feeling discarded, about opening her home and heart only to feel erased. By the end of the call, the friend was shaken, carrying a version of events heavy with emotion and bias. Within days, that story quietly made its way outward. Fans are shocked as suddenly the narrative online begins to shift. Anonymous tips appear. Comments grow sharper. People who once stayed neutral start echoing the parents' outrage, repeating phrases like cold replacement and no respect. Erika notices it immediately. Friends say she could feel the tone change, the air around her turning heavier, more hostile. What hurt most wasn't the criticism itself, but the realization that Charlie's parents might be fueling it. In this fabricated account, Erika confronted Charlie again, this time without restraint. She accused his parents of trying to control the story, of punishing her for choosing herself. Charlie didn't deny that they were angry. He didn't confirm they were leaking anything either. That uncertainty only made things worse. To Erika, his hesitation felt like betrayal by silence, a quiet approval of the storm forming around her. Meanwhile, the new boyfriend found himself under a microscope he never wanted. Friends say he started pulling back, canceling plans, asking Erika if the chaos was worth it. He worried about being labeled the villain, the replacement, the reason a family fell apart. Erika reassured him, but cracks began to show. Happiness under scrutiny doesn't feel like happiness for long. It feels like defense. Inside Charlie's family, tensions escalated again when his father suggested taking a more public stand. Not an interview, not a statement, but something vague, something that would set the record straight. Charlie pushed back hard this time. He told his father that dragging the conflict further into the spotlight would only deepen the damage. The argument turned heated. Old power dynamics surfaced. Voices were raised. Doors were closed harder than necessary. Charlie's mother, torn between anger and exhaustion, began to question whether this fight was costing her more than it was giving back. But pride is a powerful force. Every time doubt crept in, it was drowned out by the image of Erika smiling beside someone else, living a life that no longer included them. That image hardened her resolve all over again. As weeks passed, the story continued to evolve without anyone fully controlling it. Fans dissected timelines, comparing dates, analyzing body language and old videos, convinced they could uncover a hidden truth. Some claimed Erika had emotionally left long before the official ending. Others accused the parents of refusing to accept change. Emotions ran high on all sides, and nuance disappeared beneath outrage. Charlie reached a breaking point in private. According to this fictional narrative, one night he confronted his parents with a painful truth. He told them their anger was beginning to feel heavier than the loss itself. He admitted that watching them fight this battle was hurting him more than Erika's decision ever did. The room went silent. His father looked stunned. His mother looked wounded. Neither had expected to hear that. That moment marked a subtle shift. Not a resolution, but a crack in the certainty that had driven them. Still, resentment doesn't vanish overnight. Instead, it reshapes itself. Charlie's parents pulled back slightly, but the bitterness lingered in glances, in half-finished sentences, in conversations that avoided her name altogether. Erika, sensing the emotional distance growing everywhere, made a choice of her own. She stopped trying to explain. She stopped defending. She focused inward, at least publicly. Vague messages about healing and boundaries replaced any references to the past. Some fans praised her strength. Others accused her of running away. The family was left divided not just internally, but in the court of public opinion. The new boyfriend, feeling the weight of it all, reportedly asked Erika a difficult question. Was she truly ready for something new, or was this relationship being asked to stand in the shadow of unresolved pain? That question lingered uncomfortably between them. Love doesn't grow easily when it's forced to justify itself constantly. Charlie watched from a distance as both sides moved further apart, each convinced they were protecting themselves. He wondered if reconciliation was still possible or if too many words had already been spoken. The idea that everyone could sit in the same room again felt distant, almost unrealistic. By the time this chapter of the drama settled, nothing was clean. Nothing was settled. Relationships hadn't ended neatly or evolved gracefully. They had fractured, splintered into versions that barely recognized each other. And beneath all the noise, one truth remained painfully clear. This was no longer just about Erika moving on or a family feeling replaced. It was about identity, control, and the terrifying realization that sometimes letting go hurts more than holding on ever did. The situation reached a strange calm before the next wave hit, the kind of calm that feels artificial, like everyone is holding their breath without admitting it. According to this fabricated storyline, Charlie tried to pull away from the noise entirely. He stopped reading comments, stopped asking friends for updates, stopped answering questions that didn't have clean answers. But distance didn't bring peace. It only made the unanswered questions louder in his own head. Erika, on the other hand, appeared to be moving forward with deliberate clarity. She was seen less, spoke less, and when she did, her words were measured. Friends say she felt misunderstood, trapped in a version of herself that others had already decided on. She insisted she wasn't trying to replace anyone, but she also refused to apologize for choosing a different future. That refusal continued to anger Charlie's parents, who felt it dismissed the depth of their hurt. The emotional collision finally reached a new level when a mutual acquaintance organized a small gathering, hoping time and proximity might soften the edges. Charlie didn't want to go, but pressure from both sides pushed him there. Erika arrived later than expected, the new boyfriend nowhere in sight. The air shifted the moment she walked in. Conversations stalled, glances lingered, nothing was said, yet everything was felt. According to insiders, Charlie's mother approached her first. The exchange was brief but charged. There were no raised voices, just tight smiles and words that carried more weight than they should have. Erika listened, nodded, and replied calmly, but the restraint only deepened the resentment. To the parents, her composure felt rehearsed, almost dismissive. To Erika, it was survival. Charlie watched from across the room, frozen. Every instinct told him to intervene, yet he didn't know how without making it worse. When his father joined the conversation, the temperature dropped further. He spoke about respect, about timing, about loyalty. Erika responded with honesty that cut sharper than anger. She said she had spent too long waiting for clarity that never came. She said moving on wasn't an attack, it was acceptance. The word acceptance lingered heavily after she walked away. Charlie's father took it as an insult. His mother took it as a dismissal of grief. Charlie took it as a painful truth he wasn't ready to face. The gathering ended early. No resolution was reached. Instead, the divide deepened, now reinforced by a face-to-face encounter that confirmed how far apart everyone really was. Fans are shocked when rumors of that meeting leak, each version more dramatic than the last. Some claim Erika was cold. Others insist the parents were aggressive. The truth, buried beneath emotion, becomes irrelevant as narratives harden. Every side believes they were wronged. Every side believes they are justified. The new boyfriend re-enters the picture shortly after, and his presence complicates everything all over again. Sources say he struggled with the idea of being perceived as a symbol rather than a person. He didn't want to be the replacement, the catalyst, the villain. His relationship with Erika began to strain under the weight of constant judgment. Private conversations turned serious. Questions about the future surfaced earlier than either expected. Charlie's parents, sensing the family drifting apart, made one last attempt to pull their son closer. They reminded him of shared values, of family bonds that predated any relationship. Charlie listened, but something had changed. He no longer saw the conflict as black and white. He recognized the pain on all sides, including Erika's, and that recognition isolated him further. The emotional climax of this chapter comes quietly, not with shouting or confrontation, but with a realization. According to this fictional account, Charlie finally admits to himself that no one can be forced to stay in a chapter they've already outgrown. That realization doesn't erase the hurt, but it reframes it. He understands that his parents' anger comes from loss, not malice, and that Erika's choices come from exhaustion, not cruelty. Still, understanding doesn't heal everything. The family remains divided, trust remains fractured, and the future remains uncertain. Erika continues forward, aware that some bridges may never fully be rebuilt. Charlie's parents retreat into guarded silence, carrying their wounds privately now instead of loudly. As this part of the story settles, the drama doesn't end, it simply changes shape. What once felt explosive becomes heavy and unresolved. Relationships exist in a state of pause, suspended between forgiveness and resentment. And everyone involved is left facing the same uncomfortable truth. Sometimes there is no clear villain, no clean ending, just people learning too late that love, once broken, rarely breaks evenly. The aftermath of that realization didn't bring peace the way Charlie had hoped. Instead, it opened a deeper, quieter kind of ache, the kind that settles in when you finally understand a situation but still can't change it. According to this fabricated storyline, Charlie began distancing himself not out of anger, but out of emotional survival. He limited visits, shortened phone calls, and avoided conversations that circled back to blame. His parents noticed immediately. To them, the distance felt like another loss layered on top of the first. Charlie's mother struggled the most with this new reality. She felt as though she was losing her son to silence, the same way she believed she had lost Erika to indifference. Late at night, she replayed conversations in her head, wondering where things could have gone differently. She questioned whether her anger had been too sharp, whether her expectations had been too rigid. But every moment of self-reflection collided with the image of Erika moving forward, and the resentment returned just as strong. Erika, meanwhile, faced a reckoning of her own. The weight of the drama followed her everywhere, even when she tried to escape it. Friends say she began questioning whether stepping into something new so quickly had been a mistake, not because she regretted moving on, but because she underestimated how deeply unresolved emotions could bleed into the present. The new boyfriend sensed the shift. Conversations became quieter, heavier, filled with pauses that said more than words ever could. According to insiders, a serious argument finally erupted between Erika and him, not over Charlie directly, but over the constant shadow of the past. He told her he felt like he was competing with ghosts, expectations, and anger that didn't belong to him. Erika defended herself, saying she had been honest from the beginning, that she refused to freeze her life just to keep others comfortable. Emotions ran high, and for the first time, she wondered whether starting something new before the old wounds had fully closed was fair to anyone involved. Back in Charlie's world, tension reached another breaking point when his parents invited him over for what they called an important conversation. He arrived already exhausted, bracing himself for another attempt to pull him back into the conflict. They spoke about family unity, about standing together against what they still viewed as betrayal. Charlie listened quietly, then finally said what he had been holding back. He told them that holding on to anger was costing them more than it was protecting them. The words landed heavily, leaving the room silent. His father reacted with frustration, accusing Charlie of minimizing their pain. His mother cried, saying she felt abandoned. Charlie didn't raise his voice. He simply said he couldn't carry everyone else's hurt anymore. That moment marked a turning point. Not a dramatic rupture, but a clear boundary. The family was left divided not by love, but by how they chose to process loss. Fans are shocked as rumors surface suggesting the situation has permanently altered the family dynamic. Some speculate reconciliation is impossible. Others believe time will soften the edges. Online discussions grow more intense, with viewers projecting their own experiences onto the story. Some sympathize with the parents, others fiercely defend Erika's right to move on. The narrative becomes less about individuals and more about ideology, about what loyalty and closure are supposed to look like. Erika eventually made a decision that surprised many. According to this fictional account, she and the new boyfriend took a step back from public appearances together. It wasn't a breakup, but it wasn't full speed ahead either. She needed space to figure out who she was becoming without constantly being defined by who she used to be. That choice sparked another wave of speculation. Some claimed it proved the relationship was doomed. Others said it showed maturity. Charlie watched these developments from a distance, feeling a strange mix of relief and sadness. He didn't want Erika to suffer, but he also couldn't deny that seeing the chaos slow down eased something inside him. Still, the unresolved nature of everything left him uneasy. There were no apologies, no final conversations that tied things together neatly. Just loose ends hanging in the air. The emotional weight finally surfaced in a quiet moment when Charlie found himself alone, reflecting on how quickly lives can diverge. He realized that the person he was before the breakup no longer existed. Neither did the family dynamic he once knew, nor the relationship he once believed would last. Acceptance came slowly, painfully, and without celebration. As time passed, the drama lost its explosive edge but never fully disappeared. It settled into something heavier, something that reshaped relationships permanently. Charlie's parents learned to speak about Erika less, but not without tension. Erika continued building a future that looked different from the one she once imagined. And Charlie stood somewhere in between, changed by a conflict that forced him to grow in directions he never asked for. In the end, this chapter of the story doesn't close with forgiveness or finality. It ends with people carrying forward what they couldn't resolve, learning to live with unanswered questions and unhealed wounds. The anger fades, but the impact remains. And the truth lingers quietly beneath it all. Sometimes, the most dramatic endings aren't explosive at all. They're the ones where everyone walks away still hurting, still caring, and still wondering how things could have turned out so differently. Time moved forward, but the past refused to loosen its grip. According to this fabricated storyline, months passed, yet the emotional residue lingered in unexpected ways. Charlie noticed it in small moments, in pauses during conversations, in the way his parents avoided certain topics as if words themselves could reopen wounds. Nothing was openly discussed anymore, but nothing was truly resolved either. Silence had become the new agreement, fragile and tense. Charlie's mother began filling her days with distractions. Volunteering, reorganizing the house, reconnecting with people she hadn't spoken to in years. On the surface, it looked like healing. Underneath, it was avoidance. She still carried a quiet anger, not just toward Erika, but toward the version of the future she believed had been taken from her. Every milestone she once imagined now felt incomplete, rewritten without her consent. Charlie's father processed things differently. He became more rigid, more withdrawn, convinced that standing firm was the only way to preserve dignity. To him, forgiveness felt like surrender. He rarely spoke about Erika now, but when her name surfaced indirectly, his jaw tightened, his tone sharpened. He believed time would eventually prove him right, that the consequences of her choices would reveal themselves. Whether that belief was rooted in truth or pain no longer mattered. Erika, meanwhile, found herself at a crossroads she hadn't anticipated. Stepping back from public appearances with the new boyfriend created space, but it also forced reflection. Without the noise, doubts grew louder. She questioned whether she had truly healed or simply redirected her hurt. Late-night conversations with close friends became confessional, raw, stripped of confidence. She admitted she didn't regret moving on, but she did regret how much damage followed. The new boyfriend struggled in the background, trying to remain supportive while grappling with his own frustration. He cared for Erika, but the constant emotional weight made him feel like an accessory in someone else's unresolved story. Arguments between them became more frequent, less explosive but more honest. He wanted clarity. She wanted understanding. Neither was sure how to give the other what they needed. Fans are shocked as speculation resurfaces when Erika posts a message hinting at learning hard lessons and choosing growth over comfort. The internet once again fills in the blanks. Some interpret it as regret. Others see it as strength. Charlie sees it and feels a familiar ache, not longing, but recognition. He understands that growth often comes with loss, and that no one walks away from a situation like this unchanged. Charlie himself begins therapy, something he once resisted. According to this fictional account, those sessions become a turning point. He speaks openly about feeling trapped between loyalty and self-preservation, about carrying expectations that were never fully his. He admits he feels guilty for not defending Erika enough and guilty for not protecting his parents more fiercely. The contradiction exhausts him. Acknowledging that guilt doesn't erase it, but it softens its control. Slowly, Charlie starts setting firmer boundaries. When his parents revisit old arguments, he gently redirects the conversation. When they press for validation of their anger, he refuses to offer it. This doesn't come without backlash. His mother accuses him of distancing himself emotionally. His father warns him not to forget where he comes from. Charlie listens, but he doesn't retreat. For the first time, he prioritizes his own emotional stability. Erika reaches her own breaking point not long after. According to insiders, she and the new boyfriend finally confront the question they've been avoiding. Can something new survive when it's born from the ashes of something unfinished? The conversation is painful but necessary. They don't end things dramatically. Instead, they acknowledge uncertainty. They agree to slow down even further, to let whatever remains do so naturally, without pressure. That decision sparks yet another wave of commentary. Some fans claim it proves Charlie was right all along. Others argue it shows Erika's willingness to reflect and adjust. The truth, as always, sits somewhere in between, unseen and uncelebrated. Charlie's parents learn about this development indirectly. It doesn't bring the satisfaction they once imagined. Instead, it leaves them feeling hollow. The anger they carried no longer has a clear target. Without Erika visibly moving on, their outrage loses momentum, revealing grief underneath. That realization is unsettling. Grief demands vulnerability. Anger demands nothing but volume. Charlie notices the shift. His parents grow quieter, less combative. Conversations become more reflective, tinged with sadness rather than fury. It's not forgiveness, but it's movement. He recognizes it as progress, even if it's fragile. The family doesn't reunite around a table or share a cathartic conversation. Healing doesn't arrive with closure or apologies. It arrives unevenly, in moments of restraint, in choices not to escalate, in acceptance that some questions will never be answered. Erika continues forward, reshaping her life with caution rather than urgency. She becomes more private, more selective about who has access to her story. The public drama fades, replaced by quieter growth. She understands now that moving on isn't just about starting something new, but about fully letting go of what no longer fits, including the need to be understood by everyone. As this chapter draws toward its end, the story doesn't resolve cleanly. Relationships remain altered, trust remains cautious, but something essential shifts. The chaos gives way to clarity. Not clarity about who was right or wrong, but clarity about what can no longer be carried. In the end, each person moves forward differently. Charlie with boundaries. His parents with subdued grief. Erika with reflection and restraint. And while the past still echoes, it no longer controls the present. The drama that once felt consuming becomes a lesson etched quietly into their lives, reminding them all that sometimes the loudest conflicts leave behind the quietest, most permanent changes. The story didn't truly end there, it simply slipped into a phase where everything looked calmer on the surface while emotions continued to rearrange themselves underneath. According to this fabricated storyline, the absence of chaos felt unfamiliar to everyone involved, almost unsettling. After months of constant tension, silence became loud in its own way. Charlie noticed it most during ordinary days, moments that should have felt routine but instead carried a strange weight, as if something unfinished was always lingering just out of reach. His parents adjusted to the quieter dynamic slowly. Dinners became shorter, conversations safer. They spoke more about neutral topics, memories from long before Erika was ever part of their lives. Yet even in those moments, there was an unspoken awareness that something had changed permanently. The family structure hadn't collapsed, but it had shifted, settling into a shape that no one had chosen, only accepted. Charlie's mother occasionally slipped, mentioning Erika's name in passing before quickly correcting herself. Each time, a brief silence followed, heavy but restrained. Charlie didn't push. He had learned that forcing healing only reopened wounds. Instead, he let those moments pass, trusting that time would continue doing the slow work no argument ever could. Erika, meanwhile, began redefining what peace meant to her. Without the constant noise of speculation, she found herself confronting feelings she had postponed. She acknowledged the guilt she never admitted publicly, not for moving on, but for underestimating the ripple effect of her choices. She also recognized the unfairness of carrying responsibility for everyone else's healing. That balance between accountability and self-forgiveness became her quiet daily struggle. The new boyfriend remained present but distant, their relationship evolving into something less defined. They spent time together, but without the urgency that once drove them. Conversations were slower, more thoughtful. Neither pretended things were simple anymore. They understood that whatever they were building needed space to exist without comparison or expectation. Fans are shocked when Erika eventually steps away from social media almost entirely. No announcements, no explanations. Just absence. Speculation flares briefly, then fades. For the first time, she isn't reacting to a narrative. She's living outside of it. That choice, more than any statement, marks a turning point. Charlie hears about it indirectly and feels an unexpected sense of relief. Not because he wants her gone from view, but because he recognizes the courage it takes to stop explaining yourself. It mirrors his own journey toward emotional boundaries. In a strange way, their paths, though separate, begin to feel parallel rather than opposed. Charlie's therapy sessions deepen. He starts unpacking not just the breakup, but the pressure of expectations that existed long before it. He realizes how much of his identity had been shaped by trying to meet standards set by others. That awareness is uncomfortable, but freeing. He begins making choices with less fear of disappointing someone. His parents notice the change. Charlie speaks with more certainty now, less hesitation. He listens without absorbing every emotion thrown his way. At first, this unsettles them. They worry he's pulling away. Over time, they see that he's simply standing on his own. That realization is bittersweet, a reminder that loss isn't limited to relationships that end, but also to roles that evolve. One evening, months later, Charlie's mother brings up Erika again, not with anger this time, but with sadness. She admits she misses the version of life she imagined, the sense of continuity she thought was guaranteed. Charlie listens quietly, then gently says that missing something doesn't mean it was wrong to let it go. The conversation doesn't end with agreement, but it ends without conflict. That alone feels like progress. Erika has her own moment of reckoning when she runs into a mutual acquaintance who asks about Charlie. The question catches her off guard. She answers honestly, without bitterness or nostalgia. She says she hopes he's well. Afterward, she sits with the realization that wishing someone peace doesn't mean wanting them back. It simply means acknowledging what once mattered. The new boyfriend senses the shift in her, a groundedness that wasn't there before. Their relationship continues, but it's no longer defined by defiance or escape. If it lasts, it will be because it grows naturally. If it doesn't, it will end without spectacle. That understanding brings an unexpected calm. Fans slowly move on, as audiences always do. New stories replace old ones. Outrage finds new targets. What once felt all-consuming becomes a memory referenced occasionally, stripped of its intensity. But for those who lived it, the impact remains quietly woven into who they've become. Charlie's parents eventually stop framing the past as betrayal. They begin seeing it as a painful transition they never learned how to navigate. That shift doesn't erase the hurt, but it softens its edges. Forgiveness, if it comes, arrives without ceremony, not as a declaration, but as a gradual release of resentment. Erika continues building a life that reflects her growth rather than her defenses. She learns to sit with discomfort instead of outrunning it. She learns that closure isn't something someone else gives you. It's something you decide to create for yourself. Charlie stands at the center of it all, changed but steadier. He no longer feels responsible for fixing everyone. He understands that love doesn't always mean staying, and loyalty doesn't always mean agreeing. That clarity becomes his anchor. As this final stretch of the story settles, there is no dramatic reunion, no explosive confrontation, no single moment that ties everything together. Instead, there is acceptance, imperfect and uneven, but real. The family remains connected, though altered. Erika remains independent, though reflective. And the past remains present, though no longer in control. In the end, what began as outrage and accusation transforms into something quieter and more enduring. Growth, not the kind that looks good from the outside, but the kind that reshapes people from within. And while the scars remain, they no longer bleed. They simply remind everyone involved that some endings don't come with answers, only lessons learned the hard way. The quiet that followed felt different from before. It wasn't tense or explosive, but it wasn't peaceful either. It was reflective, the kind of stillness that settles after something life-altering has already happened and there's no undoing it. According to this fabricated storyline, everyone involved began living with the consequences rather than fighting them. The drama no longer demanded attention, but it continued shaping decisions in subtle ways. Charlie noticed how much lighter he felt without constantly anticipating the next argument. He still loved his parents deeply, but he no longer felt obligated to absorb their anger as proof of loyalty. When conversations drifted toward the past, he listened without engaging, offering understanding without agreement. That emotional distance, once feared, became a form of protection rather than rejection. His parents, especially his mother, began noticing changes in themselves too. Without a clear enemy to direct their pain toward, emotions turned inward. Grief surfaced in unexpected moments. A familiar place, a shared memory, a song that once meant something else entirely. The anger that once fueled their certainty slowly revealed itself as sadness that had nowhere to go. His father resisted this shift longer than anyone else. Letting go felt like losing the last piece of control he had over a situation that made him feel powerless. But even he couldn't deny that the constant outrage had exhausted him. Eventually, his tone softened, his words becoming less sharp, more measured. It wasn't forgiveness, but it was fatigue giving way to acceptance. Erika's life continued unfolding quietly. Stepping away from public attention allowed her to reconnect with herself in ways she hadn't expected. Without external validation or criticism, she had to sit with her own thoughts, her own doubts. She acknowledged that moving forward didn't automatically mean healing. It simply meant choosing not to stay stuck. Healing required patience, honesty, and a willingness to feel uncomfortable without running from it. The relationship with the new boyfriend evolved again, this time without pressure from outside voices. They spent more time talking about who they were individually rather than who they were to each other. Sometimes that brought them closer. Sometimes it highlighted differences they couldn't ignore. Either way, the dynamic felt more honest than before. Fans are shocked when months pass without any dramatic updates. No cryptic messages, no visible conflict, no confirmation or denial of rumors. The absence of spectacle slowly drains interest. The story that once felt urgent fades into the background noise of newer scandals and louder controversies. For Charlie, this fading attention brings a sense of closure he didn't realize he needed. Without the world watching, he feels free to process the experience on his own terms. He stops wondering how things look and starts focusing on how they feel. That shift changes everything. One afternoon, Charlie's parents invite him over again. This time, there's no agenda. No prepared speeches. No underlying tension. They cook dinner together, laugh at old family stories, and for a moment, things feel almost normal. Not the same, but real. That normalcy feels fragile and precious. Later that night, his mother admits something quietly. She says she's tired of being angry. Tired of carrying resentment that no longer serves her. She doesn't ask for forgiveness. She doesn't make declarations. She simply acknowledges the weight she's been holding. Charlie listens, knowing this admission matters more than any apology ever could. Erika has a similar moment of honesty during a conversation with a close friend. She admits she once believed moving on meant proving she was strong. Now she understands that strength looks different. Sometimes it looks like slowing down. Sometimes it looks like sitting with unresolved feelings instead of burying them beneath progress. That realization humbles her, but it also grounds her. The new boyfriend senses this shift and responds with patience rather than pressure. They agree to let the relationship unfold naturally, without forcing labels or timelines. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, they part without bitterness. That mutual understanding becomes a quiet relief for both of them. Charlie continues therapy, but the focus changes. No longer centered on crisis, the sessions become about identity, boundaries, and self-trust. He learns to recognize when he's acting out of fear rather than intention. He learns that disappointing others doesn't automatically mean he's doing something wrong. Those lessons reshape how he approaches every relationship moving forward. His parents observe this growth with mixed emotions. Pride, concern, nostalgia. Watching your child become more independent always carries a sense of loss alongside admiration. They begin to understand that their role in his life is changing, and resisting that change only creates distance. Slowly, they adapt. Time keeps moving, steady and indifferent. Birthdays pass. Seasons change. The drama that once dominated every thought becomes a chapter rather than the entire story. It still exists, but it no longer defines anyone involved. Erika builds routines that reflect her values rather than her defenses. She reconnects with passions she neglected. She prioritizes peace over proving a point. She stops explaining her choices to people who aren't willing to understand them. That shift brings a quiet confidence she never had before. Charlie's parents eventually speak about Erika without bitterness. Not warmly, but neutrally. That neutrality feels like a milestone. It means the wound is no longer open, even if the scar remains. Charlie reflects on everything one evening and realizes something important. No one truly won or lost. There was no villain, no hero, no clean resolution. There were only people reacting to pain in the ways they knew how. Understanding that doesn't erase the hurt, but it removes the need for blame. As this phase of the story settles, what remains isn't drama, but growth. Uneven, imperfect, human growth. Relationships aren't restored to what they once were, but they find new forms. Boundaries replace expectations. Respect replaces control. And while the past still exists, it no longer dictates the future. Each person carries forward what they've learned, shaped by conflict but not defined by it. The noise fades, the lessons remain, and life, quietly and relentlessly, goes on. The emotional dust had settled, but the impact lingered in ways no one could have predicted. According to this fabricated storyline, the absence of conflict didn't erase the past, it simply gave everyone space to feel it without resistance. Charlie began noticing how deeply the experience had changed the way he saw relationships, not just romantic ones, but family, friendships, even himself. He was more deliberate now, more aware of emotional undercurrents that once went unnoticed. His parents, too, found themselves changed by the ordeal. They no longer spoke in absolutes. The certainty that once fueled their anger had softened into reflection. They began questioning their own expectations, realizing how tightly they had held onto a version of the future that was never guaranteed. Letting go of that vision hurt, but it also freed them from the constant disappointment of measuring reality against it. Charlie's mother started writing in a journal, something she hadn't done in years. She filled its pages with unspoken thoughts, regrets, and realizations she couldn't yet voice aloud. Through writing, she confronted the truth that her anger toward Erika had often masked a deeper fear. Fear of change, fear of irrelevance, fear of losing her place in her son's life. Acknowledging that fear didn't erase it, but it made it manageable. His father processed things more quietly. He spent long hours alone, reflecting on how pride had shaped his reactions. He realized that his need to be right had sometimes outweighed his need to be present. That realization was uncomfortable, but it stayed with him, influencing how he approached future conflicts. He spoke less, listened more, and when he did speak, his words carried less judgment and more thought. Erika continued her journey inward. Without the pressure to perform strength publicly, she allowed herself to grieve what was lost without framing it as failure. She recognized that endings don't always mean something was wrong. Sometimes they simply mean growth happened in different directions. That understanding became a cornerstone of her healing. The relationship with the new boyfriend remained undefined, but stable in its own quiet way. They no longer tried to prove anything to anyone. There were no dramatic declarations, no rushed plans. They shared moments, conversations, and silences without expectations. Whether their paths would continue together remained uncertain, but that uncertainty no longer felt threatening. Fans are shocked by how unremarkable things become. The lack of spectacle confuses those who once thrived on the drama. Gradually, attention fades. The story that once felt explosive becomes a footnote, remembered vaguely, if at all. For those involved, this fading feels like relief rather than loss. Charlie reconnects with parts of himself that were overshadowed by the conflict. Hobbies he abandoned resurface. Friendships strained by emotional distance slowly repair. He begins dating again, cautiously, with clearer boundaries and deeper self-awareness. He no longer seeks validation through others' approval. Instead, he trusts his own judgment, even when it leads to difficult conversations. His parents observe these changes with mixed emotions. Pride in his growth, sadness for what was lost, acceptance of what remains. They begin relating to him not as someone who needs guidance, but as someone building his own life. That shift isn't always comfortable, but it's necessary. Erika experiences a moment of clarity during a quiet evening alone. She realizes she no longer feels the need to defend her past decisions. They are part of her story, not something to be erased or justified. That sense of peace surprises her. It doesn't arrive dramatically, but it settles gently, like a weight finally set down. The new boyfriend notices this change and responds with patience. Their connection deepens through honesty rather than intensity. They talk openly about fears, expectations, and the lessons they've learned. Whether their future includes each other remains open-ended, but whatever comes next will be chosen, not rushed into. Charlie's parents eventually reach a point where speaking about Erika no longer triggers emotion. The name becomes neutral, stripped of anger and longing. That neutrality marks a turning point. It means the wound has healed enough to stop bleeding, even if the scar remains visible. Time continues its steady march forward. Milestones pass quietly. Birthdays, holidays, small celebrations. The drama that once consumed everything fades into the background of shared history. It becomes something remembered, not relived. Charlie reflects on the journey and understands that the experience forced everyone to confront uncomfortable truths. About control, about expectations, about the limits of influence over others' choices. Those lessons weren't learned gently, but they were learned deeply. Erika moves forward with intention rather than urgency. She chooses connections that align with who she's becoming, not who she used to be. She no longer fears being misunderstood. She understands that clarity doesn't require consensus. The family dynamic stabilizes into something new. Not perfect, not ideal, but functional. Conversations are honest. Boundaries are respected. Disagreements exist without exploding into conflict. That stability feels earned rather than assumed. As this final stretch of the story settles, the emotional arc completes itself quietly. There is no grand reconciliation, no dramatic apology, no public acknowledgement. Instead, there is growth, reflection, and acceptance spread unevenly across time. The conflict that once felt defining becomes instructive. It teaches everyone involved how to let go without bitterness, how to move forward without erasing the past, and how to accept that love doesn't always look the way we expect it to. In the end, what remains isn't the drama, but the transformation it sparked. People changed, priorities shifted, boundaries strengthened, and while the past will always exist as a shared chapter, it no longer dictates the direction of anyone's future. Life moves on, not with resolution, but with understanding. Not with answers, but with clarity. And that, quietly, is enough. And now it's over to you. After everything you've just heard, the emotions, the accusations, the heartbreak, and the choices that changed everything, one question still hangs in the air. Who do you think was really in the wrong here? Was this about betrayal and replacement, or was it simply about people choosing different paths when love runs out? Fans are still divided, and the answers are anything but simple. If this story proved anything, it's that family loyalty, personal freedom, and unresolved pain don't mix quietly. Emotions ran high, lines were crossed, and the family was left divided in ways no one expected. But was this drama unavoidable, or could it all have been handled differently behind closed doors? Now we want to hear from you. Scroll down and drop your thoughts in the comments. Do you side with the parents who felt replaced and disrespected, or with Erika, who chose to move forward no matter the fallout? And what about Charlie, stuck in the middle of a storm he didn't create but couldn't escape? Your perspective matters, and trust us, this conversation is far from over. If you enjoyed this kind of intense, reality TV-style drama, make sure you hit that like button to let us know. It helps the channel more than you realize. And if you're new here, don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss another shocking story, unexpected twist, or emotional breakdown that has everyone talking. We bring you the drama others are afraid to touch, the stories that keep fans guessing, and the moments that leave everyone asking what really happened. So stay right here, stay curious, and stay ready, because the next story might be even more explosive than this one.